Hey guys, it's Rodimus Primal. I'm back with another video, and today I've got some Transformers news that is big. Really big.
Marvelous scoop! It's Unicorn!
So before I get started, of course, I want to let everybody know, YouTube, of course, doesn't notify you guys when, my next Transformers videos or anything else that I put out shows up in your subscription feed. But if you do want to get notified, be sure to ring that bell, because that's how you're going to get notified. This way that YouTube will let you know when I do post another video. I also want to let you guys know, of course, that I do have a Patreon, and for a little as $1 a month, you can help support this channel to bring more content like this. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. IDW Comics is going to be wrapping up their current universe for Transformers. Now, if all the big news that has happened, obviously the live action films seem to be getting a reboot, but we're not sure if it's going to be reboot or not be a reboot. That's a whole nother story. But now it seems that IDW Comics is also coming to a close. And this is really big news, and this is actually something that I've been wanting to... I don't really talk about IDW Comics much, but I think it's really important, because a lot of people have seen a lot of these things that have been showing up in their comics to start showing up in other elements of Transformers overall. So it does... bring a lot of foundation in a lot of ways. There are things that IDW Comics that I enjoy. I enjoyed, the Lost Light stories with Rodimus. I enjoyed some of the beginning stories with Simon Furman had wrote. And there are other elements that I really don't like. I didn't like RC's origin, for instance. I didn't like Galvatron's, not being, a agent of Unicron, and I didn't like that. How they handled certain character situations where they made Optimus not as, not the best choice over Starscream. I mean, those are kind of things where I've always felt that, IDW Comics has had its hit and misses, and, the writers have done a job to, try and make the characters interesting, and a lot of people, really like IDW Comics. I, for one, probably it's probably for the best, considering that from what I've heard from a lot of you, and I'm not current in IDW Comics. I've stopped reading pretty much around the time that that Lost Light was starting to end, and around then, I think, was it Lost Light? No, it was More Than Meets the Eye. I read quite a bit of that, and I enjoyed that, and I heard that it ended, and then they went into some storytelling that a lot of people really didn't like. I didn't care for some of the choices in story that they talked about. So I, for one, am kind of like, well, it's probably time for it to hit the reset button. And this reset button is actually something that they've known about, and it's something that they have thoroughly planned for. It just seems to be that the timetable has been fast forwarded, so to speak. And I think that might have a lot to do with Hasbro coming down and saying, like, oh, you know what? We want all of Transformers to pretty much be this, like, evergreen type of thing. If you started to notice, if you go to, like, a toy store or a party store and you find, like, gift bags for Transformers, it uses that evergreen design for, like, for Optimus and Megatron. It's pretty much what Transformers Cyberverse is going to look like. And I think, and they're also going to be doing something at the end of Power of the Primes, where they're going to be literally hitting the reset button there, and they're going to go with the War for Cybertron, which is supposed to take place before, the Transformers come to Earth. So it's all going to be pre-Earth mode Transformers, and we're really not sure what universe that's supposed to be, whether it's going to be part of G1 or whether it's going to be part of, it's going to be its own separate continuity or whatever. We don't know what they're going to do with that. But IDW Comics, it's actually been confirmed, and I'm just going to read these tweets here. Current one from John Barber says that the outpouring of love and heart and emotion at the news of our run on Transformers coming to an end has been overwhelming. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk more when I'm home from WonderCon tomorrow, but honestly, thanks, and I, for one, am very excited about what we do next. IDW will continue to publish Transformers comics, but not in this comics universe, if that helps clear things up. I don't work at IDW, I'm just a freelance writer, so I don't know all what's happening on that front. I wouldn't say at the end for anybody, but I'm pretty sure there will be some new names as well. And James Roberts wrote, to summarize, the current IDW G1 continuity will end spectacularly with Unicron number 6, Optimus Prime number 25, and Lost Light 25, all in September. All three are bi-weekly over summer. We've had time to plan for the end, so it's a proper, unrushed wrap-up. Beyond September, new IDW Transformers comics, new continuity. Lost Light will end in the way that I always intended More Than Meets the Eye to end, and I'm so pleased I can say that. Issue number 16 marks the start of a 10-part series finale. Expect things get bigger and deadlier and madder and weirder until the end of the quest. And for this, I'm glad that they're able to wrap up all of their story and everything that they've been wanting to tell, and I know it's going to go into some crazy, weird storytelling. In some ways it might be really welcome. I mean, I saw some images of this giant supersized Matrix thing, probably in some of the previews, and I was just kind of like, what are they doing? I don't understand it. And it's probably just because I'm such a hardcore G1 fan that it's really, really difficult for me to actually embrace some of the changes that are made sometimes, and that's understandable. And this is where two of IDW's people that I really don't care for, and I'm glad that they are no longer, or at least I hope they're no longer with the company. One was Chris Ryall, when he said some things that basically was saying that if you think differently than other people, then you don't belong to be a Transformers fan, and I'm glad that I upset you. And then you had some jerk like Aubrey Citizen, and let me tell you something. My dad was a 9/11 survivor. Okay? He was there that day. He was there that morning. He saw everything unfold in front of him. And for a jerk off like Aubrey Citizen, and I don't really care. I don't care if I'm politically correct with this, but for him to say what he said really upsets me. Because understand something, I'm a New Yorker. Okay, I may live in Jersey, and my dad was there that morning. So for you to say things like that, you don't belong. On a comic book that's supposed to deal with America's elite freedom fighting force. You don't belong writing that comic at all. And I hope that he no longer touches things like G.I. Joe. I hope Hasbro lays the hammer down on him and until he leaves, because I don't know if he's still on it. I really don't. And I don't really care, because I won't read that, because of it I won't read those stories. I don't care. And that's probably why it's for the best that Transformers is going to reach its end, because they tried to shoehorn things like G.I. Joe and Visionaries and Mask, and they completely altered every single one of those characters just because they could, to try and insert them into a Transformers universe that had no room for them. And, trying to combine everything just didn't work. And when you have writers that literally say, we don't care about our readers at all, we only care about our own opinions, I'm probably glad that it's ending. I understand people like James Roberts and John Barber. I believe that, from what I understand, a lot of people really like them, so I'm hoping that if that's the case, that they're still writing comic books. But people like Aubrey Citizen, he belongs as far away from Transformers and G.I. Joe and anything to do with America, for that matter, as we possibly can. If he wants to go off and write wrestling comic books, great, that's awesome, that's fantastic. I won't read it, because I won't read his stuff, but at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, my dad was a 9/11 survivor, so that's how I feel about it. Now, it's, again, IDW Comics hitting the reset button on this is going to be bittersweet for a lot of you. I probably should try and catch up and try to read more of the IDW Comics, just so I have an understanding about what's going on in the stories. So I hope at the end of the day, that these stories are well told, and that you guys embrace the end, because Unicron is coming. And this image of Unicron, let me tell you something. He's massive. He's huge. It's Alex Milne drawing this, and I don't really care from Alex Milne because, personally, I know his artwork is fantastic, but he's sitting there holding the Earth. This is probably the biggest version of Unicron we've ever seen. I mean, it's huge, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. So, what do you guys think about all this? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. I mean, obviously, if you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe and hit that bell for the notification, and be sure to support me on Patreon. And as always, guys, until next time, till all are one.